Wagwan everybody, Lennox here from Simple 123 Trader. This is the weekly playbook for the week of January 24th to 29th. Just going to go over the currency pairs and some of the US stock indices. Hope everybody's doing well. All right, let's take a look firstly at the Australian dollar, and I'm on the weekly time frame and looking at what it's looking like for the week. And again, looking at this chart, we've had quite a run, and looks like we're getting very close to the end of this move. And when we look at here, okay, so we're currently at this position, and let me just get rid of that. So we're currently here. So at a resistance, there's a few more, and then we're going to be right into the zone. So looking like we still have a bit more room to push to the upside. So structure-wise, I'm seeing we're in a little bit of a lull at this first resistance, but I think we're going to be breaking through to the upside. Of course, it may take a couple of weeks, but that's what it's looking like. So for this week, right now we're traversing in a sideways fashion. So we could see some pullback, maybe back down to this area. We could even come back down here before we turn and continue to the upside. So possibility of some further downside going into this week before we turn around. So trade accordingly. Okay, so that's the Aussie dollar. Okay, let's take a look at Bitcoin on the weekly. Okay, also it had quite a pullback this week as expected, and so on the daily time frame, also now we are in a forming a triangle, or we could be forming a wedge like that. But in either case, we're going up and down, similar to the Aussie. So again, I would expect one more pullback before we go. Okay, so that could even come back down to this level before it goes, but certainly looking for further weakness in Bitcoin. I wouldn't expect a big, huge. It will maybe come up to this area here. That's totally possible first, but we're going to come back down one more time. I would think before it continues. So that is Bitcoin. Okay, let's take a look at Canadian dollar on the weekly time frame. Also have pushed up quite strongly and now took a little breather as well. So again, structure-wise, that little breather there. So we could see a further push to the upside for the Canadian dollar in the short term in this week. So at first, right now from the daily, you can see it looks like we're going to come back down. So we're going to probably come back down a little bit and then push to the upside after that. Okay, so that's what I'd be looking for the Canadian dollar. A little bit of weakness at first, but continued strength going into the rest of the week. Okay, looking at the Swiss franc on the weekly. Okay, also lots of strength again. It's been very strong going up, and we had a little of a lull. It's looking to push to the upside again. So that's what I'd be looking for Swiss franc. Further strength to the upside is imminent. We could see a slight pullback at first, but more strength to the upside for the remainder of the week. Okay, the US dollar for the weekly. Okay, so this has been in quite a funk to the downside. So let's go to the monthly. So on the monthly, what we're seeing here is that we've very close to our low since 2018, basically. So that's quite a while ago, and we almost hit it, and it looks like it wants to bounce, but there's some indecision there. There's an indecision candle on the monthly. On the weekly, we are looking to push to the upside, but it looks like it's getting some resistance. So on the daily, I see some further moves to the downside imminent. We may break this level. It might play out this week, but it looks like further downside is definitely in the cards for the US dollar. So that's what I'd be expecting. Okay. All right. Next one is the euro on the weekly. Okay. Also, the euro had a pullback this week as expected again. So we got that pullback. Are we done? It's totally possible. We could be looking to push back up again. So on the daily time frame, yes, we came back down to our support. We're pushing to the upside. We're going to get a little bit of a pullback first before we continue to the upside. That's the most likely scenario going into this week. Let's take a look now at the British pound on the weekly. Lots of strength in the British pound. Let's go to the monthly. So on the monthly, we're right at our first resistance level, and we could definitely go higher. It looks like there is room there for that to go. So we'll see how that plays out. But on the weekly, still looking strong. On the daily, it's still looking pretty strong. So a little bit of care here because again, we're at a very strong resistance area. So, but I do see the British pound continuing its assault to the upside going into this week as well. Okay, so the next one would be gold. And on the weekly for gold, okay, so with gold, we've been in this sideways pattern for a while. We attempted a breakout, couldn't do it, came back down into it. So we could be coming back down to this level before we turn. Okay, so this, what I'm seeing with the structure is that move. We're in a flag area, so we could come back down to this area before we turn. So some weakness in gold going into this week is likely in the cards. So yeah, looking like we're going to be coming back down to challenge the support area. We could break through, but we're coming back down into this area in any case. Okay, next is the Japanese yen on the weekly. This has been very strong, and now we're back down to the bottom of our trend. Are we just going to bounce back up again because we are inside of a channel? So that would be the key question going into this week. So we're down at the bottom of the channel. We're just going to do what we've done in the past, where we just came here and turned around each time. Each time we've turned around, basically. So looking like it wants to try to do that, but there's nothing that says that this time it can't drop through. So care has to be taken. You're in a very vulnerable area. So I would be a little bit wary about going long, although that would be probability wise looks good. However, a little bit of care must be taken at this point. Okay, next one is the Mexican peso. Mexican peso has also been in quite a run to the upside, and we're now at a level of lullness. So I would expect some further moves sideways in here before we break out. So some weakness then would be in the cards for the Mexican peso. So we're in kind of this type of channel, and I would see one more drop back down to this level. We could break it and come back lower as well before we go. So again, you're in a very vulnerable area, so care has to be taken playing the Mexican peso. Take a look at the New Zealand dollar on the weekly. It's been very strong, just like the Aussie. And again, I'm looking for further moves. Let's go to the monthly, take a look at this. So on the monthly, you can see we are right at a very, very strong support, or sorry, resistance area. And we could push higher. We actually did, came very close to there. And we don't have very much room left. So if there's still more umph to this move, we're going to have to be careful because it might take its time as it goes. It looks like it does have a little bit of room to go still. So this pullback, I would expect a little bit of a pullback before we go if it's going to go, but it looks like it should push to the upside here for the remainder of the week. Okay, so silver. Let's take a look at silver. Silver. Also similar to gold, has been in a sideways type of move, and We could call this a triangle as well in this meeting, but we're back in a downward mode. So I'll be looking for a little bit of weakness going into this week in silver. And you can see that that's the case at this point where we are indeed heading again back down. So we could assault this area and turn around somewhere in this area, of course. Okay, next is the US Russell 2000. Let's go to the monthly. And this is in new territory and just going like crazy. So looking like there's not much is going to stop this index. And so I have to give it the nod with earnings season, like last week, with earnings season, that we could get a little bit of a lull in here, but it's going to have some strength going into the rest of the week. And again, it's a similar story going into this week. Looks like we're very strong to the upside. So I'm not seeing too much of if any, pullbacks. Could be a little bit, but nothing dramatic. I would still be betting long on the US 2000 at this point. Okay, the US 30, the Dow, also is in new record territory, pushing very strongly to the upside. Again, we're in a little bit of a lull stage right there, a little bit of trepidation because of last week's inauguration and so forth, but looks like we're going to be heading into this week with some strength to the upside. So with earnings season kicking in with vigor this week, I would expect further moves to the upside as the earnings come in. The S&P 500 would be similar. Let me go to the S&P 500. Same kind of thing. We broke through the previous highs with lots of strength, and we're pushing to the upside. So on the daily, again, lots of strength to the upside. I've not seen any pullbacks here of any consequence. So we had a little bit of a blurb there, but again, we're going to be continuing with strength to the upside, especially if the U.S. dollar continues its move. Okay, and lastly, we're looking at the U.S. technology sector or index. Also, lots of strength to the upside. Daily, very strong. And again, not seeing any pullbacks too much here. So the earnings are going to be the catalyst for these moves to the upside. Looking pretty good overall for the U.S. technology and the U.S. stock market in general. All right, so that's a look at what's setting up for this week. So profitable trading to everyone. Be safe. We're done now. Thank you.